So which one will be better? So I asked this question to my radio audience last night, and I certainly want to have a comment left by you as to which one you think is going to be better. If I ask who's going to be better, the Falcons defensive line or the Falcons secondary, which one do you think is going to be better? Okay. Now, in my mind, I take the secondary in this equation. So, a couple of reasons why. So, first off, I think that the upside potential of the secondary has more players to be good back there. We know AJ Terrell can be one of the better corners. We've seen Jesse Bates be a second team all pro safety. And if Jeff Okudah can be a guy that lives up to the hype and things, then again, there's a lot more potential in that back. And then I think when you look at some of the other guys that they have, Clark Phillips is doing good things in camp. Mike Hughes is a guy who can be that nickel corner. He's also returning punts for this team. When you look at the depth of Hawkins and Grant and guys that give you some depth at the safety position, I like what the upside is of this. And when I compare it to the defensive line, and it's not a matter of that they're not coached well or anything like that, but I'm going to factor in the Jerry Gray factor as well. And I've talked about on the show repeatedly that Jerry Gray, I think, was the low-key best move that the Falcons made in the offseason. He's an excellent defensive backs coach. Again, Jair Alexander talks, wonders about him. And you've already seen guys in this secondary talking about how much of an impact he's had. And in 2010, when he was the defensive backs coach for the Seattle Seahawks, they had a couple of rookie safeties in Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. I think those guys worked out pretty well. I think they found a way to be pretty good. So again, I just like the combination of what the secondary has to offer. The problem about the defensive line is there are still plenty of questions. I was talking with Steve Weish last night, and he said, look, again, their secondary could be really good and be improved and everything, but you're not going to be able to cover for 5 or 6 seconds if you can't get to the quarterback. And I agree. I've talked about this many times on the show that, look, there is no such thing as coverage sacks. In today's NFL, when you have 4, 5, 6 guys running around in patterns, catching passes, you're not going to get coverage sacks. You're not going to be able to cover everybody that comes out in an NFL offense nowadays. It's not 1978 where 2 wide receivers are running out of a pattern and maybe a tight end or a running back that splits out, and that's what you've got. Nowadays, you have to play 5 and 6 defensive backs because they spread you all out and they run all over the field. You can't do that in today's NFL. You're not going to have enough guys that can cover everybody for 5 or 6 seconds if you can't get home to the quarterback. And so, again, that defensive front, while it's improved and it certainly does have more personnel on it than we've seen in years, it still has a lot of questions. I'm big on Arnold Ebiketie, but if he can't be a guy that gets off the edge and creates a bunch of havoc for, opposing quarterbacks, then where do we turn to? Are we turning to Lorenzo Carter? Are we turning to Caden Ellis to be that guy? Are we turning to Calais Campbell? I don't know that the guarantee of upside is there at the same level that the secondary is. I know AJ Terrell is a really good cornerback. I think last year was a hiccup. I think he gets back to what he was a couple of years ago, and I think he's one of the better corners in the league. And now he's got some help in Jeff Okudah on one side, and obviously with Grant, Hawkins, and Jesse Bates all at safety, that rotation of guys, and Mike Hughes helping back there, I think that helps him even more. So, again, I like our defensive line, but I still have questions about what's the real upside to it. Where is the floor and the ceiling of that group? And I'm not talking about even the inside defensive line. Onyemata, Grady, those guys will be fine, and they'll blow plays up or whatever. But again, if you can't get off the edge and get that fire breather coming off the edge to sack the quarterback, then I don't know where your defensive line is. And you're going to put a lot of pressure on your secondary if it works itself out to where those guys are having to run around and try to cover everybody for a length of time. If you can't get home, it's going to be tough. And it's still my biggest question mark about the Atlanta Falcons defense and their defensive line. So if I ask who's better or who's going to be better at the end of the year, the defensive line or the secondary, with the combination of the upside of the guys, the more guaranteed factor of the players that we have, and the Jerry Gray factor when you figure it all in, I'll take that defense. I'll take that defensive secondary. I'll take the secondary, as I think that they're going to be the better unit at the end of the day. And look, I mean, there's a lot of upside there. If this group comes together, if Jeff Okudah can really be that linchpin where he can be a solid number 2 cornerback, and obviously he's playing for a contract. If he can be that big, solid number 2 cornerback, sky's the limit on how good this secondary can be. But again, we've got to get those guys up front, putting pressure on quarterbacks, finding a way to come off the edge and sack the quarterback at the end of the day. All right, as you listen in to Hittin' Hard, we want you to leave us a comment about that you're an everyday listener to the program. So we want to know who our everydayers are. So we do thank you so much for being a part of our community, and let us know that you're an everydayer to the program. You're listening in 5 days a week. So we thank you so much for being a part of our show on a daily basis.